Hello there. I'd like to share with you today a tool that has helped me, many of my students, and many of my patients over the years. It's a pretty simple tool, but you will find that it can do a lot of difference in your life if you need it. Have you ever been to a room where the atmosphere was charged and you could feel the fact that it was charged even before you actually knew what was going on? Have you ever sat with a person for an hour only to find yourself drained because he has that kind of vibe? Or maybe you have issues with your family or your friends, close people in your life that you find are going through difficult moments and it burdens you. Well, it doesn't have to actually be that way. Without becoming callous or uncaring, you can simply become less burdened. It is all about how you use your empathy and your sensitivity. And if you use it in the wise way, well, you can still be there for your loved ones and the ones you care for, and yet not suffer for it. How is that possible? Well, let me teach you a small tool I like to call shrink wrap. It's not the actual shrink wrap. I'm not going to wrap around a shrink wrap nylon and simply, you know, build a barrier between you and the people you love. Instead, you can consider this a kind of virtual spiritual shrink wrap, which means creating a certain barrier that simply protects you from overwhelming energies or difficult vibes in other people. Um, the whole idea is that our empathy is actually a tool that's based on our aura, on our field, energetic field. And most of us walk around our lives with our aura open wide. We contain a room, we contain a city at times. We feel them all. We feel everyone around us. Some more, some less. Some feel it, some are less aware of it, but to some extent we are all empathic beings. Now the whole idea is that this aura, this field around us is actually something we can control. Most people have it on default open to as wide as they can handle. And they don't understand why walking through a crowd will feel uncomfortable, will feel invasive, or walking into a crowded mall, the same. If we can control when this field is out and open and when it's actually up close and actually kind of shrinks, wraps our body, then it's up to us whether we are exposed to whatever people around us are feeling or not. We can do it by choice. And I'll explain a few words now and then I'll simply show you how it's done. The whole idea is that we can actually control it with a simple thought. We don't have to have some deep-seated secret or an amazing inward ability. All we need is simply to know a certain technique and practice it. And the second point to remember, if the default is closed, it means you're never so-called under attack by other people's energies. It's always a choice that you make to accept someone into your field, feel him, and understand him better for it. So let's go on to the exercise itself. Okay, now find a nice comfortable place to sit where you are unencumbered and you don't feel your body in any discomfort. You might want to wear light clothes, something that won't burden you for the first time. Eventually, this exercise can be done under any condition, but it's always wise to start a tool like this with an extra comfort zone. The idea is very simple. First thing we do is actually try it out, and of course, once you've done it once, you might want to repeat it another time in various situations until you become comfortable with it. If there are any questions about this tool, you can always ask in the blog. I'll be glad to answer. Now, we start by taking a few deep breaths. Let's move our focus to a spot that is 2 centimeters below the navel, but between the navel and the back. In other words, in the center of our body. This is the center of our weight also. And it is a very powerful point according to the Chinese medicine. Nice place to start. Imagine you have a ping pong sized ball of light right in there. Every time you take breath, every time you inhale, the ball of light grows a little. Every time you exhale, every time you breathe out, the ball of light becomes brighter. It feels a little more clear to you. It becomes a little more real in substance. So breathe in and it grows a little. Breathe out and it shines up. Breathe in and it grows a little. Breathe out and it shines even more. And when the time it reaches the full size of your stomach, it should be very, very clear to feel. If it is difficult for you to feel the ball, just let your imagination grow. It will still work even if you do not actually feel this ball of light. Just flow with me. You might want to repeat this several times. So take a few more deep breaths and let the ball grow in size and shine until it actually surrounds your whole body. Just feel yourself within this ball. It feels like being inside a soap bubble. And to those who can actually see energies, you can actually see something that's very similar to such a soap bubble. Take a few more deep breaths and let that aura of yours grow even bigger until it expands to the size of your room. If there's anyone in there with you, you may actually feel them within your ball, within the ball of light. Take your time. A few more deep breaths. And now, as you continue breathing, the ball will expand even more, and you can feel the whole house you're sitting in. If you take your time, you can get to the whole city with all those little specks of consciousness of all the various people living with you in the city. The more sensitive you are, the more likely it is you will feel those specks of consciousness flooding from everywhere around you. Take a deep breath and simply continue to expand until eventually, if you're willing, you can encompass the whole world with your aura. It's a wonderful opportunity if you're already there to send some love. This world really needs it. And this is a wonderful opportunity to do just that. From this enormous moment where you can feel all the consciousness of all the people in the world within you, start to decrease the size of this ball of light. Take it one step at a time at your pace until only you are inside this ball. Take all the time. You can pause the video now and simply continue this exercise right until the point where you're ready, with the ball of light just around yourself. Now that you've reached this point where the light is just surrounding you, I'd like to suggest an improvement on that egg-shaped ball of light that many cultures actually acknowledge as our aura. Imagine that you have this opening like you have in the shrink wrap automated bags that help you pack stuff for the winter or summer. Just put a vacuum cleaner and suck out all the air until this aura of yours is actually like a shrink wrap, and that enveloping your body tightly with no space between you and this aura, your light. At this point, you are totally encased in your own light. And this barrier is actually a very strong barrier that can prevent any thought, any energy, any vibe from entering or from taking things from or of being able to take things from you. Energies, thoughts, whatever. This is a barrier that is totally protective of you. Because you are the only one who can make anything go in or out at this point. In other words, you are totally protected from any interference from the outside. It's not that you would be totally unfeeling of the people around you, but you would be a lot less sensitive to what they feel, to what they say, to what they buy. The most important thing about this is that you now have the ability to open up to whatever crowd, single person, child, close friend, lover. You can open up your field again, encompass them, feel them, be totally empathic with them. And you can also not. As a matter of fact, if you ask me, the default status that we should all be living in is the shrink wrap mode. There is no real reason to be out there all the time and exposed when other people don't really either appreciate it or actually ask for it or need it. You're just borrowing their troubles and their worries and their vibes and their bad energies and their sickness, even if they're very sick, simply because you're out there mingling automatically. You just choose when to open and choose when to close. And if I were you, it would be a default close and open it when you choose to be open. As a matter of fact, there is even another trick I can add on this, which makes this even more efficient, especially for those of you who are therapists and want to use this in a clinical situation with people that are very often very out of sync with themselves, very uncomfortably vibed. Or, of course, for those of you who simply have a close relative who's sick, gravely sick, or a loved one who's going through a crisis, this is a very useful tool. It does not diminish your empathy or your sensitivity or your caring, but it will reduce the amount of discomfort you will feel around those people during those moments of crisis. And it will prevent you from draining out or from feeling sick yourself or from not being able to be around them for all their discomfort. The idea is that you can take this envelope and instead of widening it out again as a circle, as a bubble, you can actually imagine that you have an 8 where you're in one of the circles and the person in front of you is in another. The connecting point between the two circles of the 8. And that enables you to actually be empathic and feel all those things that the people in front of you, or the person in front of you feel. But because he's in a separate circle, they are in a separate circle, you do not actually have to take all those vibes in to you. Just be aware, communicate from that understanding, from that empathy. And when you're done, simply pop the second balloon, the second bubble, the one they're in. Their energy will be there to hold on to live with. It will not flow into you when you do not need it or want it or choose it. Simple. But from my experience, very, very efficient. Many people will find this exercise to be a little baffling at first. Take your time. Practice when in the bus. Widen your circle and feel the seats in front of you and behind you, and then another row and another row. Or you can do that when you're standing, not driving, in a car, in the light, say, and you can simply feel the cars around you, the people in front of you, behind you. You can also simply exercise with this video again and again, stopping it, pausing it every time I'm running too fast for you. So you can take the time to breathe and exercise and widen that aura or make it small again at your pace. Take the time. This may be one of the tools that will seriously change your life if you simply adapt it. Have fun.